Peace and blessings. This is your brother Gabar coming to you live. This is IAMFITPodcast. Are you fit to go God's way? Let's go. All right. Let's get straight to business, right? So I wanted to comment on what I'm doing here. Okay, it's good. Okay. Peace, brothers. I see you guys coming in. Thank you for allowing me in your living rooms. I was watching a debate. One of the brothers from M.G.G.W. Sent me a link for a debate. I'm going to put the debate, in the comment section. You guys can check it out yourself. This is B Read TV, I believe. It was with Brother Gorilla Hebrew and also Dr. Brown. And there's the link right there. You guys could check it out on your own. It took about 2 hours and 42 minutes. I actually enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed it a lot. More than I thought I will. And I want to, if anybody's seen it, give me a thumbs up. If you have not, give me a thumbs down or give me a yes or no. I say here, I haven't seen it as yet. Okay. But you could check it out, and I want to hear your guys' comments after you do see it. And I want to hear your comments after you, if you've seen it rather. And the reason why I wanted to come on the show, is, the title says, the maturity of the children of the Hebrew community. I think Brother Gorilla Hebrew Eleazar, I think Eleazar, I think is his Hebrew name. I know Gorilla Hebrew is more like a stage or avatar or a different scenario. I debated. I'm debating out since 2014. Okay, I don't know what exactly that means, but I believe you. Okay, but. I liked the debate. I actually enjoyed the debate. It was very, I would say, mature, but also organized. Shout out to also Vocab. He was the moderator, and he was fair, and I no complaints. He did a good job in regards of him moderating this thing. But this is what I noticed on this debate. That I realize Pastor Dow went against Michael Todd today. Okay, so I got to see that. For me, I debated, and you guys see my debate in the past. I'm kind of done with the debate. For me, it's not for me anymore. So much, I don't have the desire to do it anymore, because it's like, at this point, it's not about information or the lack thereof. It's about whether accepting whether something's in front of you or not. And what I noticed about Michael Brown, and I've seen this debate in the past, and I think a few years back, I think I called one of his shows on when he had a talk show, a radio show. And we were discussing about, me not believing in the people in Israel, the real people in Israel. And I literally got it, what is going on specifically with the Jewish people. It's specifically with the Jewish people, and I'm going to deal with the European Christian people, but you just the Christian people as a whole. Post Constantine. And I realized that with Jewish people, I think with them, they have invested so much effort in being the children of Israel, especially after World War II. What happened to them in Germany, and they say, yeah, listen, regardless whether they believe they were the descendants of Israel, you have many Jews that are against the state of Israel, like Jews against Zionism. And many of them said that Jews should not have a country or have a land until the Messiah gets here. And many of them were saying that Judaism is not really a nationalistic religion, it's a spiritual religion. So in their, when you speak to the Jews against Zionism, they usually out there protesting against the peaceful dismantlement of the state of Israel. They want the state of Israel to be dismantled. They said that if Israel tried to establish any state before the Messiah, it's only going to be cursed. And given that, we have been 70-something years now in Israel. Well, not we, but the state of Israel has been established. There's only been war and rumors of wars and chaos. But when the Zionist community decided to say, we are the children of Israel, or we deserve back our land, they threw all their bets in. It's all or nothing. So at this point, we need to understand that it doesn't matter what evidence you show them. It doesn't matter what information they come across. For them to even open the Pandora box, and I saw the frustration with Michael Brown, and because I have heard his rhetoric before. This is a debate. If you guys are interested, I'm not going to play anything of it, but it was a good debate. But what I noticed about Michael Brown, and first of all, he barely brought any sources, and this is something that Guerrilla Hebrew touched on. It is that white people in general, not all, but especially educated folks that come from the European continent, sometimes don't have the urgency to present sources. They don't. They may quote a guy here or quote a book, but I think they are used to being believed. And I think Michael Brown is suffering for what I call delusion. I think Jewish people in general, all the respect and regards of them being the children of Israel, at this point, with all the evidence that has been presented to them, that perhaps they may not be the children of Israel. That there may be some evidence that they may be a product of converts. They're delusional. I think Michael Brown, Dr. Michael Brown, is one of them. I think they are sicked in. All bets are in red, and they're going to go with it. Or better, they're going to go down with the ship. And that's why I'm no longer debating any Jewish people. I'm not doing any debate, but clearly I'm not doing debate with Jewish people, because if they would open the door and say, you know what, you're probably right. We are a product. There's evidence out there that we are a product of evolution. Not evolution, a product of conversion. And I think in their mind, they are afraid that if that takes steam, if the information takes theme, they're going to lose out a lot politically, economically, socially, religiously. They're going to lose that title of being God-chosen people. So it doesn't matter what evidence you will show them. It doesn't matter if you source after sources. They're going to just debate it out. And they're good in debate. So I think at this point, it's almost like a waste of time to because it's like I knew this will happen, that eventually, and even vocab, I remember, I think I was one of the earliest folks that he began to talk to, and I kind of began to talk to and talk to him about who's who and what's what, and a little bit of the history of the Israelite community and so forth, so on. But even now, he's saying, well, some African Americans, some Latinos could be, right? So, okay. And it's not to their credit, like, oh, they're so honest. I think the Hebrew Israelite community forced them by the data they've been sending and showing the masses to say, you know what? We got to kind of admit that there's some evidence there of people of color being the children of Israel. So now it's like Michael Brown, let's put that aside. We all got to come together, kumbaya, and I get that. And I don't have a problem with that necessarily. But this is the problem that I have in particularly, is that at this point, they're no longer really arguing whether we are the children of Israel. Now, one of the major arguments today was the 12 tribe chart. Now, the 12 tribe chart, I believe we still need to expound upon it and continue and try to perfect it. I think, I don't think it's perfect yet, but I believe it has strong merit. I believe that the blacks and the Jamaicans and the Haitians and the Mexicans and the Dominicans and the Puerto Ricans and the Brazilians and the Argentinians and also with the islanders of the South Pacific Islanders, the Aboriginals, there is strong evidence that they are descendants of Israel. And I think the world at this point cannot deny that. And kudos to Gorilla Hebrew, man. He's really matured. I see his maturity. I know Michael Brown said, people were asking, why would I come on the show with this guy? He's a thug and he's a this and he's a that. And, I could see how someone could take offense of that. But, to keep it real, a lot of these brothers come from that demographics. They come from the gangster, what you call it, the street life, whatever. He said he dropped out of high school in 9th grade, and he's a convict, and he now he's turning his life around. So kudos to him, man, for doing the right thing. And but I seen his maturity. I see Brother Vocab on the queue. You did a great job today, Vocab. So I'm proud of you. Good to see you too, brother. Good to see you too. Good, you did a good job. And I'm also seeing the growth on Vocab. I think, the fact that you could have a Hebrew Israelite, Vocab is and also Michael Brown is Christian, what's that word? Being apologists and so forth, so on. I think Brother B. Reed also, did his thing. I think they hosted on his platform. I'm seeing the maturity of both sides, and I'm kind of, I'm proud of them. But with the question of the Jews, I think it's a cut that goes too deep, because think about it. You got people all over the world. Salute to you, Brother Vocab. All over the world that are claiming to be Jews, right? The Manasseh ben Israel, the Falashian Jews. You got the Igbo, the Shanti, the Lombard. You got also the Ben Manasseh, those brothers. Now, Brother Gorilla Hebrew, let's do some research on them, because I done some research and there's some evidence that it goes beyond their just the dream and all that, that the brother have. There may be some evidence that we are Israel. That's right. The chart should be expanded. However, though, when you look at all the people that are claiming to be Jews, there's even, I think, people in Japan claiming to be Jews, in the Middle East, in Africa, here in America. But the only people that have an abundance of historical reference of conversion is the European Jews. And that's always going to be that big elephant in the room that they cannot avoid. Now, the Khazarian thing, I think Mr. Brown, Dr. Brown, I think you're being biased about the Khazarian, only a small little group converted. You're being biased. There's no evidence there was a small group. That usually comes from not having any evidence in how many people converted. People just assume it could have been a small group, or it could have just been the elite, and so forth, so on. But you got the Khazarian conversion, you got the Uncleus, and also the I forgot the family Hunkless family. I forgot the name of the family, tracing back to that conversion and things of that nature. So that's always going to be a big elephant in the room. So that, I think that raises anxiety with them, because all this evidence showed that they're not Jews. And I think, Jewish people, I know they like to view themselves separate from the white community. That's why that the whole term anti-Semite was coined to basically state that we're not European, right? We're Shemitic. So if you're going against us, you're going against Shemitic people, right? To distance themselves from European people. But that was a coin. It made up. I think the thing goes back about maybe 100, 120 years, right? It doesn't go. It's just a term that it began to be developed through the time. But what they don't want to face is there's no way to know that they're the Jews. There's no way to know. To be real, if you want to really be real, we don't know. All we have is the Bible, and I could be biased. I believe we have the more evidence, right? What tribe I'm in? I think I may be Levi. I think I may be Simeon. I don't know. We could talk about that. That's why the 12-tribe chart should not be like a concrete thing, but it should be respected because, shout out to Guerrilla Hebrew, because he brought into specifically the Mexicans that there are books saying that there is evidence that they were specifically the tribe of Issachar. And Michael Brown, his technique is just debunking it. There's no evidence. This is ridiculous. But he didn't bring any source. And he talks very fast. And I think he suffers, with all due respect, from white privilege. White people, let me talk to you white people. Let's talk, man. Let's talk. What you need to understand is this, brother. And I'm not talking to all white people, because, there are certain white people that grew up around black people and understand the black struggle, the brown struggle, and they could relate to what we're saying. So they could look at the world from our perspective. But sometimes white people, and I think that you guys don't catch yourself. I think it's unconsciously. I think there's a lot of race that need therapy. Black people need therapy. Brown people need therapy, but white people need therapy too. And sometimes you have to let go of certain things, man, that it's not, you got to let it go. You got to let it go. And I think the reason why they want to hold on to, they're the children of Israel so much, right, is because now they're in the land. They're in the land. So if there's even an inkling of doubt that they are not the people, and that takes precedent, their worst nightmare is, in their mind, is going to come true. Oh my God, they're going to come for us again. We're going to get kicked out of Israel again. We're going to get kicked out because we got kicked out of so many countries and so forth, so on. So I think a lot of them are suffering from some level of anxiety because of what happened in World War II and things of that nature. Now, I got to also say this about when, because Jewish, they're always going into the community goes about, we got kicked out, I think, out of either 70 countries or 170 countries, I forget. But I did extensive research on that. And I would not debate this, but I would maybe send some information to, if Guerrilla Hebrew wanted to attack this and things of that nature, he more, I'll probably do a lesson. I'll probably do a PowerPoint on this. But when you look at the Jews that were in Europe, it is a mistake to believe just because they were in Europe and just because they were getting kicked out of Europe, that is automatically means that they were Ashkenazi Jews. That's a major mistake, because the people kept a record why they kicked out the Jews, why, and more importantly, they used to also describe them. Like, for instance, a lot of Jewish people will say, well, we always got kicked out of 170 countries or 70 countries. I forget the numbers right now, but they'll mention Spain. Papa, I got receipts on that. That wasn't you guys. Yeah, that was the Sephardic Jews. And I know that the Sephardic Jews today, more of the Middle Eastern Jews, and I got receipts on that there was some there's not legitimacy in regards of that, because the Sephardic Jews today, they are known today, are a mixture of us and Ashkenaz. So I will, to be fair, I believe some of the Sephardic Jews are Jews to some degree. However, though, there was a major removing of the identity. And that's what Michael Brown doesn't want to deal with. I know Guerrilla Hebrew, he knows the scripture that Israel will be discontinued from their heritage. We'll serve other gods. We will lose our way. So this argument that they keep Sabbath, so that's the evidence that the Jews is going against the actual scriptures that we will be discontinued from our heritage and we will serve other gods. So if you serve other gods, each god has a different culture of worship. So we will lose our culture of worship and pick up theirs. That's a no-brainer. And I think arguing with Jews about the situation, I think it just hits, it stabs deep. I think it builds anxiety. So I won't even waste my time. You think you're Jewish? Fine, knock yourself out. I'm not going to argue. I just know my truth. Well, there's only one truth, but you get what I'm saying. Okay, I believe, and to go back to the Europeans, because you guys could look it up, and I'm going to do a PowerPoint on this. And also, I think General Hassar from AOI, he did I think Army of Israel, is that camp? He touched on that some of the Jews, or a lot of the Jews that were being kicked out of Europe, they wrote Pepper Booths, the Catholic Church, and decrees like kick out the Jews. They deserve slavery because they killed the Messiah. And they used to describe them. They used to describe their color, and it was never European. So I think it's we have to visit history, folks, because I got extremely amount of books that talks about that. They used to describe the Jews as Ethiopian, descendants of Ethiopians. And they even in Spain in particular, they used to say that a Jew is indistinguishable from an African. You can't even tell them apart. There's no way in God's green earth, Michael Brown, you could be next to an African and you could be, mistaken for an African. And I think that's the reason, and that's the reason why I feel white people suffer from white privilege. I think white people are also a victim of the lies that their predecessors told the world. And what white people need to understand, especially Jewish people, when the Roman Catholics took over, and began to start putting their images in the churches and all that, and putting Jesus Christ as a European, right? If we all know that in the Bible says, surely, in Hebrews, I believe 7:14 or 14:7, it says that, surely our Lord spring out of Judah, right? Christ was a Jew. So I think white people are underestimating the ability of the propaganda that was put in the books, and specifically in the turning from the 18th to the 19th century, the Reformation era or a time in America, that they need to fix history, because it's inconceivable for me to believe or to ignore that we can accept that European took black people from Africa, slaughtered Native Americans, wiped them out, used to call them less than human, but they would never steal their religion. That's above, they could do that type of tragedy, slavery and killing and raping and murder, but they would not lie about a book that at minimum it would be called a Middle Eastern book. Israel is considered Middle Eastern. I call it Northeast Africa, but let's go with that. Middle Eastern don't look Europeans. And I know that every single time Jewish people would try to compare themselves to Middle Eastern people, they'll take the lighter looking skin of Middle Eastern people to compare to them. And according to the Israelite narrative, Jewish people are Middle Eastern people. We believe that the Romans, right, were conquerors of different worlds and different countries, Africa, the Middle East, and they intermarried with different races. So if you go into Europe, you're going to have Middle Eastern DNA, Papa. And the narrative that we believe specifically within Europe and Romans and Jewish people, they are descendants of Edomites. That's why I don't waste my time arguing with Jewish people, because at this point, anxiety builds up. Anxiety builds up with them. They would never accept. They would never accept it that, you know what, perhaps the world does not evolve around me. And not all white people. But there's certain white people like Michael Brown. It could never conceive. Their pride would not allow them to say, you know what, maybe these guys are right. I may not agree with them, you know, and clearly there is a thing within, you know, the Israelite community. That's why I'm extremely proud of Gorilla Hebrew, how he conduct himself. I hope he takes that road and continue that road. And I saw even a glimpse of light when he admitted and he allude to it. I don't know if you guys, if you saw the, you know, vocab, if you know, I don't know if you noticed it when he mentioned in Isaiah, I believe 58 or 56, when it talks about even the son of the strangers that will hold on to my covenant, even him would I bring within my walls and into worship. For my house be called the house of worship. So if he admit, because back in the days, they used to say, hey, brother, those are Israelites that were scattered. So if he's alluring that these Gentiles are not the scattered Israelites, but the actual Israelites, if you read that carefully and objectively, you're going to realize that is precisely God giving the opportunity for the Gentiles to receive salvation. Now, this is the problem with you Gentiles. This is the problem with you Gentiles. You have to accept, regardless who are the Jews, they are God's chosen people. And there's this thing of that we separate or we confuse salvation for all, which I believe in, and ranking order in regards of God chosen people and everybody else. Israelites are God chosen people. We fell as a nation. We are returning slowly and shortly. And eventually Gentiles are going to be drafted in. So I'm appreciative that these guys are talking respectfully. They are talking objectively and you know, there's no cursing. There's no, you're the devil that the Bible speaks of. You know, Gorilla Hebrew, you are maturing, brother. You are maturing, and I am proud of you, what you have accomplished. In the short time that you started doing your own thing. I remember years ago, I saw a video that you said, what was it? That you got put in the what is that? The some defamation group as a racist group, and you took pride, and you said we were only about 20, 40 people. We were back then. I'm pretty sure you have grown since then. So I could see your growth. I could see your maturity. I could see your growth. So keep that up. Now, Michael Brown, I got, and that's the reason why sometimes there is a thing with debate that sometimes makes you dishonest, right? It makes you dishonest. That if you're not a Jew, if you're not circumcised on the 8th day, you're too smart for that, man. I thought that was like, that exposed you to be a dishonest person, because you being a New Testament believer, you should understand that there is a new circumcision made without hands in the operation of what? Baptism. And there's plenty of examples of Israelites that were not circumcised in the 8th day. I'm going to give you an example. I'm pretty sure you read this story several times. Remember when Joshua was about to enter the land? And what did he do to the people there? Now, all these men were the men that were born in the wilderness. He circumcised them. I'm pretty sure they were not 8 years old. Timothy, the deacon of the Apostle Paul, he got circumcised because his mother was a Jew, but his father was a Greek. So he probably, converted later or what have you. And he was still considered a Jew. So I think sometimes debate makes you desperate. And I saw that, and I was like, that's kind of like pseudo. That's pseudo. That's like a dumb argument. Yes, you will be, if you don't keep this law, you will be cut off from the people of Israel. But you have many examples of people much later being circumcised, Jew and Gentiles alike. So I think you were a little dishonest, I think that's a desperate move. And, I just want these type of conversation to continue. And that's the reason why I started Man Going God's Way. And part of, my personal opinion, part of our problem as an Israelite community, within the Israelite community, is doctrine. And we hold on to these doctrine, the name, the month, the calendar, is it Enoch, is it lunar, is it, and I got my belief, you got yours, but I think that's been holding us back and unifying, and so forth, so on. And that's why I had to kind of step away from church and being part of a religious institution. And because listen, man, I've been doing this for 30 years, man. I mean, I'm 50. I want to be 51 next few months from now. Every debate that I've seen, there's nothing new that I have seen the last 10 years necessarily. Probably maybe once or maybe two, a book here, a book there, but I've seen it before. I hear it before, and I realize that I am convinced that this is either you accept it or not, because the bottom line is there's arguments on both sides, but my beloved Gentiles, man, Europeans, guys, come on. It's like you want to be the conquerors and the God-chosen people. You want to be everybody? And I think there's a thing with white privilege that every white person, not every white person, because I got white friends that agree with me, but guys like Michael Brown and you, Vocab, but you're growing, you're progressing. You guys need some counseling, man. You need to like assess your white privilege, man. Real talk. Because it's like, and it happens a lot when every time I debate white people, they never bring any sources, very little. They may quote a guy here. It's like, just believe me because I'm white. And I don't think you guys see this when you do this. I don't think you notice when you do this. And see, and because a lot of us dropped out of high school, I got to go to college, but what I'm saying is a lot of us don't come from these educational institutions. We have to present sources because we know people are not going to believe us because we don't have the doctor title. So you white people need to stop that. Because white people need to say, you know what? I need to check my racism. We all a little racist. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. We all got that little, I prefer to hang out with my home. Every white person that tells me, I don't see any color, I just want to slap in their face. Like, stop the cap, bro. Stop the cap. Listen, I would want my daughter to marry a Dominican. I'm pretty sure you want your daughter to marry a person of your race. Now, yes, me being a Hebrew Israelite, we got the 12 tribes and we got, black, Latino, Puerto Rican, they're all Israel. So, so what I mean, my own people. And that should be okay. That should be okay. To say that, or feel that way, not feel like you are a racist or evil person for wanting to continue your bloodline. But white people, you guys need some counseling, man. You guys need some group conversation of real conversation about, maybe we're a little delusional. Maybe we have to, revisit the history that we've been taught. Are we being biased? Just think about that. I mean, look what happened because when you go into Christendom in the first 100, 150 years, to be real, Alexandria, Egypt was the Mecca of Christianity for the first 200 years before it started really becoming a thing, right, in Europe, right? And, when you look at the early bishops, they were, people of color. When you look at, Christianity and things of that nature, it was an African and a Middle Eastern thing predominantly within the first 200 years or so. So when white people begin to convert, look what happened. Look what happened. Like Michael Brown says, you will know them through their fruits. You take from that time, from the Constantine, the council in 325, right, AD, and just look at just 500, 600, 1,000 years later. All these white European paintings. You don't think they knew that Jesus Christ didn't look that way? Like, you got to acknowledge sometimes, there's something wrong with us in regards accepting or being part of something that we didn't start it. We want to just take over it. And I think white people today forget that. White people are also a victim of these lies that your ancestors created. And all I'm saying, just take a look at that. And that's the reason why I would like to have a discussion. I want to do a PowerPoint on that. That just because you was a Jew in Europe doesn't mean you was European looking. And I could prove it. Because in the Papa Booths, they used to describe the Jews and how they used to look. And no, it wasn't like, they were dark, like evil, they're dark or black. No. They say you cannot even distinguish them from Africans. They look like they're descendants of Ethiopians. And all this evidence, black people keep showing you white people. You just don't want to accept it, man. And that's why I don't debate white people anymore. I don't get caught up with that. Because you already come in and you don't see it. You don't see it within you. But I see it. You come in as, this Negro doesn't know what he's talking about. This pig doesn't know what he's talking about. You may not say that. But because you have gone to the best schools, because you have gone, white people have gone I would say a few decades advancement in education. But question your education, white people. Are you part of the lies that your people has portrayed to the world? And what pisses me off about white people sometimes, not all. No one is demanding for, there's no white pickets, white people standing in front of Catholic people. It's like, listen, white Mary, white Jesus, white Peter, white James, that's racist because it's been proven that these people are people of color. You it's like you're very passive with all your past sins. You understand? You very, let's move on. You very, no, that's nobody, every single time, we're trying to show people, with a color in the Bible, you always fight against it. Well, you guys don't see it. And I think you guys need counseling, man. You guys need some like reprogramming to realize, like, I'm going to give you a prime example, right? Revelations 1 and 14. His hair was white. His head and his hair were white like wool. His eyes were like flaming fire, and his feet was like polished brass. Now, if that scripture was a scripture that was by itself, like you don't ever see or ever read in any other place of an angelic form or angelic angel or someone in from the heavenly realm coming down and speaking to man, was never physically described. Maybe you could have some argument. Oh, the brass, as if it burned in the furnace, that means it was burning. So it was when something is burning, yada, yada, yada. It looks like red or fire, right? That represents his glory. His head and his head was white. And the word white there, it doesn't mean white like the color white. Look at the Greek. It means glistening, bright, right? But when you go into other scripture, like in the book of Ezekiel and book of Daniel, it mentions the angel the same way. So this is not like an island that's by itself. It's connected to other description of angels. And there's one in the book of Daniel says that his feet and his arms were like the color. And that's the reason why I can't debate with white people. It just stirs me up because you guys are so goddamn hard-headed when it comes to, like, maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're a little racist about this. Maybe, we gotta reassess our thinkings because maybe we're doing certain things that we maybe think we're doing it for good. Maybe we think we're doing it because, no, we don't think that's this color. We think that's the glory of God. And you guys start looking for every single scholar that may give you an alternative answer just because you just don't want to accept it. And listen, let us say you hypothetically are right. No one really knows the interpretation of that at that position. No one could actually specifically say it. Because there's no explanation like, okay, this is what this means. And, we have to kind of pick up from different areas. And when I say, okay, because I look at the Bible as a historical book, and I look at other records from other people, and people, you will never see a people of color, right? Asia, all the gods look like Asians. All the gods of the Middle East look like Middle Easterns. All the gods from Africa look like Africans. So it'd be hard for us to believe, and we're going to accept that the Jews at least were Middle Eastern, right? Because you guys would at least mean that, because then you could play with Middle Eastern, right? Although Brother Gorilla Hebrew, he showed at the end actual phenotypical pictures and drawings of the Babylonian conquest and the Assyrian conquest, that these ancient Israelites have cornrows and they have long noses. What else do you need, Papa? That's why I don't debate this thing. You guys want to believe whatever you want to believe, but my advice: go get some counseling, man. Go get some. I don't know. You need some help, because it's like it's your race. It's not your racism. I think it's. Calling it racism, it is a cheap word, because I don't think you guys are racist. I think it's something else. I think there's something psychologically wrong with you guys when it comes to look at evidence that proves you wrong, and because you guys have invested so much time in this particular dogma, you don't want to let it go because it's your damn pride. It's like the whole thing with Christianity with the laws done away with. Was there some laws done away with? Yes, the sacrifice laws, the judgment laws. But we could find example of Paul, Christ, keeping the Sabbath, even the Passover. Even I remember when I spoke to Vocab about, brothers, Paul was commanding for us to keep the Passover. Well, no, he did it. And I showed them in Ephesians. Right? And Paul's saying, because see, I'm a practical guy. I don't get caught up with the esoteric meaning of the Bible. I don't get caught up with that. You go fly a kite with that. If Paul is talking about he's actually chastising the church, because when you go into the book of Ephesians, not Ephesians, 1 Corinthians, I believe chapter 6 or 5, when it talks of this, therefore let's not for Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us, so therefore let's keep the feast, not with that old leaven, but with the new leaven of sincerity. So and ask Vocab, what feast are we talking about? Why would Paul if Paul was teaching what you are teaching today, what was he keeping? Well, he was urging the Christian church to keep the Passover, Papa. And we even have people connected to John the Revelator, Polycarp, said, nah, John told us to keep the Passover as the Jews does. But you guys are biased because you know what is what you right, people? Not all. You could never admit, when you invest so much energy in an institution like Christianity, you don't want to say, you know what, we probably wrong. We probably did a mistake. We probably, and if they began the Roman Catholic Church, because Christians, I got a little secret for you. Most modern day Christians, you guys are children of Catholicism. Because before the Protestants were Protestants, you know what they were? I got a little secret. They were Catholics. They rebelled from the Catholic religion. And the reason why they rebelled from the Catholic religion, because they didn't want to give any props to the Pope. They wanted to say that the Bible, the scripture is the final authority. But this is the difference between Protestants and Catholics. You ready? They believe the same thing. Easter, Christmas, the law's done away. We live by grace. You don't have to keep the Sabbath. You don't have to do anything like that because all that's bondage. They believe in the same nonsense that they've been teaching for years. The only difference between Catholics and Protestants is that the Catholics will say, well, the Pope told us so, and he's the vicar of Christ, so it bucks for him. Protestants, they will bend and bow down, shift their reality to fit their narrative. Because their pride, man. I'm telling you, I'm telling you this, guys, with love. There is something wrong with white people when it comes to they believe in their own bull crap. And that's why I'm out of it. You guys want to believe whatever you want to believe. White people that grew up in the hood and they see the world from our perspective and they understand. But most, and this is not all. I'm not putting a blanket statement. But people like Michael Brown, I don't waste my time with that dude. Because I could see it right. He comes very humble, but I could see his head up. That's why a lot of these guys, they go into, PhD to already come in with his respect, and things of that nature. They want to just receive like they're the teachers and we're the dumb hicks and we gotta listen to them. And they're not doing this consciously. They're doing this unconsciously. They don't see it and they will never see it until God comes here and corrects them. But nevertheless, I enjoyed the debate. I really did, and I think it is the direction in the right place. I'm proud of Gorilla Hebrew and his growth. Gorilla Hebrew, there's two things I would like for you to consider. Salvation is for all, but the rank order is right. We're chosen. We're going to be above everyone, and in regards under Christ, in regards of the blessings, right? the kingdom is going to have the name of the 12th tribe of Israel, not the 12th tribe of Moabites or the Moabites or the Enites, right? So white people, and I'm not Gentile in general, especially you white people, because I do believe you are a brother. And I believe this is a spiritual fight. And white people maybe have to maybe consider that maybe perhaps this is not about racism. This is about you feel spiritually it should have been you because you are a brother. Because white and black people and brown people, black and brown people have a love-hate relationship with white people. We're like brothers. We're always bickering one another. And all I'm saying is, the Bible, I think Israel is mentioned like 6,000 something time, and other reference about Israel like Zion, my people, the elect, all that is dealing with Israel. But there's another nation in the Bible that God talked about them. And these people are the Edomites. And even in Jewish sources and outside sources, it identified Edom with Rome. And all I'm saying, listen, I believe that salvation was for everybody back in the 90s, man. So I'm not you could kill that. But somebody, gotta be an Edomite. Somebody has to be Esau. And white people, just consider, and I'm saying you could be saved. Okay? Other Israelites may not believe. Some Israelites may say, well, I could accept Chinese and Africans, but white people, they're going to be slaughtered and because there will be no remembrance of the house of Israel, the house of Edom. I read that a little different. Maybe I could do a show about that in the future, but somebody has to be Edom. Okay? And towards the end of the show, the debate, they asked a question about that, and Michael Brown was talking about that God is not going to judge according to race or nation. He's dead wrong. See, this is the whole thing. Every nation is going to be judged, and God is going to be judging every nation according to their works. However, there's a loophole. And you know what that loophole? Get in the water, get baptized, confess your sins, accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, and you'll be saved. See how that works? I'm gonna give you an example in the Bible. Cornelius was a Roman centurion. He was down with the Roman Empire, and he got saved. So it's not every nation is going to have a judgment, because when you go into like the book of Jeremiah 49 and so forth, so on, right? It goes into, right, that thus says the Lord concerning Edom, thus says the Lord concerning Moab, thus says, concerning Egypt. He does judge nations, but every individual has the choice to take their own personal life at hand and say, you know what? I'm not going to go along what my nation is doing. I'm going to accept the God of Israel. And there's a plethora of examples in the Old Testament and the New Testament of that example. Let me give you an example. God told Israel, when you go into the land of Israel and you see the Canaanites, you know what he says? Wipe them out. Do not make peace with them. Wipe them out. Don't make any peace. Don't make any treaties. Kick them out. Get out or kill them, right? But you know who he saved? The harlot, Rahab, and her family. They were Canaanites. So individually, you have every person individually have the opportunity to be saved. If they are grafted in, if they come in. So listen, I'm really done with this Israelite thing in regards to debating that we Israel. I'm going God's way. Who's coming with me? You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to make that I'm an Israelite the bang of my existence. You Israelite camp, you want to continue going out there and debating this, and you white people want to continue debating that we're not, knock yourself out. I'm done. I want to just help people go to that water, help people to change their life. And I want to focus specifically on men, because I think men are being ignored, and I believe the men are the flock of the Most High. But I enjoyed the debate. If anybody wants to maybe chime in, you could call in at 267-358-0879. I could maybe also, let's see here. Let me put the link as well, in the chat room. And if anybody could come in, if they want to come in the chat room, you're more than welcome. More than welcome. But there was a debate a few months ago with what's the brother from IAMFITPodcast, Captain Tazariak, about salvation. I think he lost that debate. I don't think he did. I think that I think I did a show about that. I was so pissed about that, because it's like, dude, come on. It's like, this is a no-brainer, man. And this is my suggestions to the Hebrew Israelite community, because I know the secret. I know your secrets. I've been one of you guys. See, the problem is not that there is not sufficient evidence, or I would even said overwhelming evidence, that the Gentiles can find salvation. Is that you guys, specifically the group that came out of One West, who are the loudest. A lot of you guys came from the hood, and you guys cannot relate to white people. You guys cannot relate to Chinese people. You guys cannot relate to Arab people. You have a resentment towards these people because you view them as what? Invaders of your neighborhood. So it's not the problem. It's not the scripture in regards of salvation for all. There's plenty of scriptures of that. The problem is that when the Israelite of One West was being shaped, right, in the late 60s, right? Look what was going on to black people at that time. They were being lynched, the civil rights movement. So black people view white people as the devil, because you know what? Let's keep it real. They were acting like devils at that time. From their perspective. From our perspective, we view them as there's no good white people. And white people, you gotta give black people a little slack and be a little patient, right? With the Israelite community. And I'm commending Vocab and even Michael Brown to having this discussion. But guys, you have to we are the people of the book, man. We listen, there is too much evidence that I have seen. Because if the evidence existed in the other side, everybody would be like, not questioning. I mean, think about it. From all the people that are claiming to be the Jews, throughout all the continent, the only continent that you have history of conversion is in Europe. But the only people you cannot question whether they're the Jews or not is the people from Europe. That's white privilege. Even, I don't know if it was Shapiro or somebody, they're saying you are anti-Semite if you even question Jewish people being Jews. But you Jews, with all due respect, you are not anti-Ethiopian Jews. You're not anti-Igbo Jews. When you start questioning, well, you don't fit our DNA. The arrogancy of Jewish people to say that there's a Jewish DNA, because Michael Brown, I have spoken to many Jewish people. And they will start with the Jewish DNA, the koine and all that as an absolute until I educate them. And not even educate them, because they're educated themselves. But until I expose, dude, you're not speaking to a dumb hick. Because all the sources that Gorilla Hebrew was bringing out, I've seen those sources. I'm familiar with the sources. A lot of the Israelite community, we are, know that the DNA proves that most likely white people are just simply Romans, specifically of the Jewish people. With a little Middle Eastern DNA, yes, that doesn't prove anything, because guess what? Romans are Middle Eastern, a mixture of Middle Eastern and Europeans. Japhet and Edom, because when you go into other records, they mixed themselves and became Rome is a mixture of Edomites and Japhites. So you're going to have a little bit of Shemitic. See, you're biased because that history you are well aware of, but you ignore it because it goes against your narrative. I got Brother Justin, you're on the line. Let me bring you in. Okay.
Go on.
Brother Justin, what you got to add to this conversation? What say you?
Oh, Elder Gabar. I figured a white person that has been in a Hebrew Israelite church for the past 8 years might as well call in.
Might as well, right? So what you got to say, Mr. White?
Might as well.
Yeah, Mr. White person. What you got to say about what's going on?
As you know, I have never ever had a problem bowing to my elders and understanding who the Israelites are. That's never been an issue for me. But I think that's a lot because of my upbringing. I went to school, and I know what it's like to be actually a minority because I went to predominantly Northern tribe Hispanic schools my whole life. So my whole life, I was actually the outcast as
yeah, and I think there's something to that. I think it's because I think it's beyond race, it's culture. Because if you grow up under a particular culture, you're going to look at the world history from a particular point of view. And that's what, you and I can relate. Like, for instance, there may be some people of color that grew up around white people and white academia and things of that nature that will probably side with Michael Brown. So I maybe it's we have to look at that when people grew up in certain demographics in certain neighborhoods, we just look at the world differently. And generally, there's a level of distrust, I think, within the Black and Latino community when it comes to history. Like, history it's been already laid out. Christopher Columbus discovered America, blah, 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 and things of that nature. But white people from the other side, or the people that grew up in accepting, the standard of history and the way it is, need to understand that people of color, and you could relate to that because you kind of grew up around us and things of that nature, we look at it from a very cynical perspective. Like, okay, that's what you say. I'm going to take your word for it right now, but I don't know if I find something else. Right, I'm going to go with that, or it's like a cynical, it's a distrust, so to speak, and that's why there has to be a movement within every religious institution to try to translate every book that they have. I think the Roman Catholic Church gotta stop holding on to these books. It doesn't belong to them, and that goes back to the whole white privilege that I was saying, that the nerve of the Catholic Church to think that they have the right to a book and a history about a people that predated them. And I'm referring to the Hebrew Israelite because the Hebrew Israelite narrative in the Bible, it is a Hebrew Israelite narrative. So when the Romans converted, they were like, no, we're just going to take this, we're going to take that. And I want just white people in general that come from the Michael Brown demographic to just look at that and how people that are been marginalized and been oppressed and been prejudiced against and all that we will look at that as like, that's white privilege. You understand? Because if the Roman Catholic Church were a bunch of Hindus, Indian guys from India, right? Everybody will be demanding and be pissed off and say, you don't deserve those books. You got to open up those books. They'll probably, will go in there and demand by force to open up these other extra books and things of that nature. I don't know. I think it's just one of those things that, I see. I don't know if you saw the debate. What do you think about the debate, by the way, if you've seen it?
I was in the middle of it when you went live, so I switched over to you. I didn't get. I was kind of just getting in the middle of it.
Okay. So maybe we could do a part two. I think it's growth on both sides. Michael Brown. But go ahead. What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to be totally honest with you. First things first, what you said about the Catholic Church, that's one of my biggest arguments, is how does a Roman decide Hebrew records? That's just nonsense. I mean, that's one of the stupidest things you could ever say, honestly. How does a Roman emperor decide what is and what is not canon in Hebrew records?
Yeah.
It's not even logical. It's asinine logic.
Yeah.
But you have to break that you have to break that mindset of Christians. They look at you stupid when you say something like that.
Yeah.
And yet it's like logical stuff. But here's my argument on the whole black, white, Hebrew Israelite thing and all that, is that I think we're stuck on the 12 tribes chart. And I mean, I've got research to show, hang on, I got a list here. I have research to show Negroes in America, Native Americans, Native Caribbean Americans, Native South Americans, West African nations, Native Pacific Islanders, Aboriginals in Australia, the Shadis of Pakistan, the Barakuman of Japan, the Dalits of India, the Khmer of Cambodia and Laos, the Native Philippines, and the Native Scott, Irish, and Britannia are all Israelites. So we have
to expand that chart, and this is what I would throw an olive branch to Michael Brown and the Jewish community. Everyone that is claiming, let's start a committee. You know me, I'm big on committees, right? Let's start a committee. We're going to pick leaders from every community, and we're going to have an equal vote in what is the destination or the destiny of Israel. Right? Let's have a conversation. If we all claiming to be Jews, let's all have a conversation. And we would all sit down and put our differences aside and say, okay, we all believe in Torah, okay, in things of that nature. Some are messianic, some not. Okay, let's have a place that not only Israel and the Israelis are getting all the funding. I mean, like $6 billion a month or a day, Israel's getting. Why did I throw in that to the Igbo Jews? Why did I throw in a little love to the Ashantis or the other people? And not only that, not only throws a bone because that's even insulting. I think to me, more let's all be exclusive and let's have a conversation. That we're not going to always agree on everything, but we cannot be in a situation that the only people you cannot question that they are the Jews. Are the Europeans. Everybody else, well, we could question it. Let's debate it. We don't know. I think you're part of converts. And there is not 1 ounce of history of any African anywhere talking about, I'm a convert. But we could see conversion in Europe. And that's the frustration I have with Jewish people, with all the respect. It's like, come on, guys. And I think it goes back because they threw all their bets in Israel. So now, like, for them to now discover that they are not Israelites and they're converts, I think it's the anxiety of World War II is gonna, come in again. Because I think they are also a victim of the lies as well. I think they have believed the Kool-Aid. And who wants to let go being God chosen people? Come on. Right? That's why I think sometimes this thing is sometimes that's why I don't want to get into it so much in the point of like, listen, just follow Christ, be a man to go God's way. We could all agree, let's agree on the tenets rather than on the who's God chosen people, because we're going to be continue arguing that until the cow comes home. What say you?
Honestly, I'm a big proponent of finding out who every single nation is within the 70 nations in the table of nations and tracing them back. And I think everybody that thinks they are should go back in their lineage and find out for themselves who they are and start teaching the rest of the world who they are. Just like I did as I traced myself back to Norman roots. This is a big thing that I have, with me, that I have we have to discuss not just the differences between black people, but the
Yeah.
differences between white people.
Yeah.
Because there is a difference, a huge difference between a Germanic, Anglo-Saxon, Frank, Visigoth, Ostrogoth, on and on and on,
Yeah.
and a Norman, Scot, Irishman,
Yeah.
who I personally believe can be traced back to Israel, back to Danites.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially through prophecy, that the Normans were, if you look at everywhere they went, they were the adder in the path that stopped Rome from getting to their brethren overseas. They took, and as such, because of what they did to Joseph, if you read in the Testament of Dan, he basically gets the worst of the punishments.
Yeah.
He's going to be totally forgotten by his people.
Yeah.
And in the end times, he's going to have to plead his cause to his own brothers and say, nah, I'm you as well.
Yeah. 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 And the 12 tribe chart is a good start. We have to expand upon it. We got to tweak it. I don't think we should throw it away altogether, but I think it's a good start. And you're right.
There's prophecies in.
Yeah. Go, you were saying?
There's prophecies. I'm sorry. There's prophecies in all 70 nations, though. There's no reason why we shouldn't. If we're going to open up it all.
You know, you're right.
Open the Vatican archives.
Yeah.
Open up the Smithsonian. Open up the Louvre. Let's get the records on the table.
I wonder if there's a way we could petition to the UN. Maybe Man Going God's Way will be, the organization will do that, right? We'll get enough political clout and say, listen, it's time for you to open up these books. Everybody's dead that was involved, right? At this point, it's just going to be for our learning and try to figure it out and things of that nature. I mean, I think you're right. I think it's unfair. And I think maybe we should come and maybe build a coalition and say, hey, listen, I think all these religious institutions got to open up the books and maybe hit it, and specifically the Roman Catholic Church. Absolutely. And you're right. I think there needs to be a discussion because every nation is mentioned in regards of what's going to happen to them prophetically. What was prophesied about the Egyptians is going to happen to them in the last days is different from the Moabites and the Amorabites and the Edomites and others. Yeah. So we have to, be honest about that. And everybody wants to be an Israelite. Nobody wants to be an Edomite or a Moabite. You get what I'm saying? I get it. But we have to.
I lived for 7 years as an Edomite in an Israelite church. It's really not that big a deal.
Right.
If you really, it's about Christ in the end, as you've been saying. So
yeah.
Why not put the records out there? People are either going to believe science nowadays or they're going to believe this book. So give us the records.
Yeah, exactly. Just give us the records for we could have, because that could probably, who knows, these records could probably bring peace among the different churches because now we got more information. I don't know. Maybe, maybe my mind is, I was thinking we have to maybe start a coalition of different Christian churches and saying, listen, we got to create, we got to open up these books because there's a lot of books that has not even been translated in English. They're still in Latin. And so there has to be a movement of translating these other records outside of the 66 books of the King James into all the other languages. Yeah, you can find salvation there. Only that's all you need. I get it. But I think it will help to bring peace among all of us if we have more information, more records in our records. But absolutely, man, absolutely. But I enjoyed the debate. I think it was a good thing. But it's so much out there, so much information, you're a young man and you got that energy. I don't, so maybe that's a fight that a younger generation needs to pick on in regards of identifying the tribes and all that and things of that nature. And I believe it is important. I'm not saying it's not important. I just don't have the energy. Or whatever. Maybe that's going to be, in the next meeting, we're going to talk about Man Going God's Way. Maybe, everybody may have a calling because, like I said, and I'm going to say it 1,000 times, Man Going God's Way is different. It's not a church. We're not going to always agree. And I think if we are successful, we could then show the world, oh, snap, this organization are not a monolith of idea, one doctrine, one name, one this, one that. And if we catch on, maybe, and I think today's debate kind of showed that people kind of, becoming friends and talking and respectfully. I'm very proud of how they handled that debate tonight, and hopefully we could continue having that conversation respectfully. Any last words before we end it? Because I'm, it's getting late over here.
Absolutely. Just the last thing I would say is imagine what could happen if we just stopped debating and we just started putting the truth out on the table. I mean,
yeah.
It's a pipe dream, but it's a beautiful dream.
It is,
for me at least.
Yeah. I just want peace, man, on earth. That's what I want. Christ, get here already.
Yeah.
Come on, let's go. We're waiting. But thank you,
Shalom,
brother.
Yeah,
shalom. We'll talk soon.
Very good.
All right, brother Justin on the line. Thank you, brother. All right, so yeah, guys, check out the debate. I want to put the description one more time. It was very well done. And even the debate that I saw before with General Tazariak, it was also well done as well. And I'm seeing the maturity within the Hebrew Israelite community, And I think what happened that, One West, when they first got started, it was in the middle of the civil rights movement. It was really in the middle of this us against them, because it was really them against us. So we created this, let's screw everybody else and let's just deal with ourselves. So white people, you can't really blame us. You know what I mean? So you got to have a little patience with these brothers and turn the other cheek and so forth, so on. But also humble yourself and say you could probably learn from us as well. You could probably learn from us. Because, when I first started with vocab, he didn't thought none of us were Israelites. Now he said, well, some blacks and some Latinos. So there's progress. So maybe there could be progress on both sides. So until next time, I'll be back hopefully next Tuesday. Shalom, peace and blessings, and good night.